Parce que moi, tout ça se peut choix là.
Ok, on est prêt à commencer?
Non.
Can we make sure the front door is on? Les micros sont allumés?
Non.
At least we're in good humor for the last meeting of the year. Hopefully it's the last meeting of the year. On va commencer parce que bien Bonsoir tout le monde. Good evening, everyone. We'll get this meeting started. Item 1, roll call. All members of council are present. I'll ask everyone to please stand for the prayer and the national anthem. Attendu que le Canada est fondé sur des principes qui reconnaissent la suprématie de Dieu et la primauté du droit, prenons un moment de réflexion personnelle. Whereas Canada is founded upon principles that recognize the supremacy of God and the rule of law, let us take a moment of personal reflection. Everyone. Merci beaucoup. Item 4, additions, deletions, or amendments. Conseiller Brisson.
Est-ce qu'on fait un changement pour les termes des pompiers?
Non, ça va aller assez vite. Oui. OK. Conseiller Larin.
18.
Under 18. Okay, 18A. Yeah.
No.
You sure? Okay. We'll move on. Adoption of the agenda. Motion to approve the agenda as presented. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Saucier, second by Conseiller Brisson. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 6, disclosure of pecuniary interest. Seeing none. Item 7, adoption of minutes. Regular council minutes of December 2nd, 2019. Motion to approve the following minutes as presented. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Larin, second by Councillor Chinoski. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 8, presentations. We have none. 9, delegations. We have none. Item 10, consent items. Motion that all items listed under the consent items be received as presented. Item A, request for community grant special event program from the Parks and Rec Department, 2020 budget. Item B, minutes of the Accessibility Advisory Committee of September 11th, 2019. Item C, the minutes of the Township of Russell Public Library Board of October 17th. D, minutes of the Environmental Advisory Committee of October 2nd. E, minutes of the Russell Historical Society of November 11th. F, minutes of the United Counties of Prescott-Russell October 23rd. And G, the pay list for November 2019. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseiller Larin, second by Councillor Chinoski. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item 11, reports from departments and council committees. Item A, zoning bylaw amendment, report PD 122-2019, property owned by Marbury Farms, Inc., and described as parts of lot 14, 15, and concession 4, vacant lot on Edie Road in Russell. We need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councilor Kanowski, seconded by Conseil. Oh, no, sorry.
We're not voting on it.
No, right now. Any questions? I'm already rushing ahead. No. Anything to add from the administration? No. We'll move on. Item B, zoning bylaw amendment, report PD 123-2019, property owned by DL2M Investment Limited, Donald J. Milad, and known as 1300 St. Andre Road in Emron. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? No. We'll move on. Item C, grant award from Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation of Canada, report EM03-2019. That council receives report EM03-2019 dated December 16, 2019, and that council is informed that the grant of $20,334.35 received from the Firehouse Subs Public Safety Foundation Canada has been used towards the purchase of a hearse combination tool. Monsieur Leduc, Chief Duhamel, Chief Armstrong, looks like we have a presentation this evening.
Yes, we do. Mr. Mayor, thank you. Thank you, Council. Tonight we have the owner of Firehouse Subs Auto, Phil Patel, and his managers, Sanita and Ashin. And I'll let them explain how it works, but we applied for this grant in September, and they gave us a good hand on it. We had to send it back. It was sent in, and this combination tool was part of the grant of the first tools that we bought on our budget last year. We knew that if we put that one in there, we would bring it up too high so we couldn't raise that much amount of money for that part of it. So what we did is we received the tools last year, and this one here, this tool here was going to be in our 2020 budget. But we applied for the grant and we received it, so that's what it's doing, that's taking care of that part of that tool.
Perfect. Well,
So
Mr.
I'll let, Shem, you can come sit here if you want. And he'll explain how, funding works and how, so you just gotta go buy some subs and that's.
Good evening.
Good evening, everyone. So Firehouse Subs was started by 2 firemen, and after Hurricane Katrina in 2005, they initiated the Public Safety Foundation, where we collect money for first responders in the restaurant, and we give it back to the community that the particular restaurant is situated in. In Ottawa, we've so far done $124,000 in the last 2.5 years. We've done $846,000 around in Ontario in the last 4 years. And altogether between US and Canada, we've done $42 million. $46 million, excuse me. And yeah, this money that we collect is through roundups. So if you come in and buy one of our tasty subs, you round up to the next dollar. We ask every guest that comes into the restaurant to round up for you guys. And the other part is we sell the pickle buckets. You get a chance to taste our pickles when you come in. And the pickle buckets that they come in, we sell them for $3. And they also donate money through canisters. We also have October First Responders Month, where in the entire month we try to get more funding through medallions, where they donate extra by giving $1, $5, $25, $50, just for that month. And we also collect water during the month of August, the first weekend of August, where you bring in a case of 24 bottles and you get a sub on the house. So these are a few ways how we collect money, and yeah, we're thankful to have given this opportunity. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much.
Any questions?
Thank you very much. It's nice to see Ottawa organizations that are helping out the little community of Russell Township. Not so little now, we're growing. more than welcome to come and join us in Russell Township anytime you want. We have a very strong eco development department here that'd be willing to help you out. But I guess we have a check presentation, Chief?
Yeah, yes, we do. They'll present us with the check. We already bought the tools. It's already in the trucks and ready to go.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'll invite everybody up here behind us in front of the flags. We'll take some pictures here, and then we'll be able to send that out as a press release to our local media and encouraging them to go visit Firehouse Subs. And I believe there's 2 locations, one on Ogilvy, one in Barhaven?
Yes, sir.
Perfect. Yeah. We'll just move our chairs out of the way here. Members of council, everybody.
Try to get in this.
On n'aime même mieux pas. Ça donne une drôle d'agression.
Oh, you'll have to. Bruce, can you go on the other side? They'll have to move up.
Let's go to the flags, folks.
La Pierre, c'est bien.
Maybe, can you move a bit again?
We'll move this way.
Yeah.
It's always good to put the American
Canadian
flag in the American stuff. It's on, they
La
always
chaise
love
d'eau.
it.
There's lots of room here, guys.
You have to squish again.
There you go. Not that way, this way.
Okay. 1, 2, 3, smile. Perfect, thanks.
Awesome. Thank you very much again. I'm sure you guys want the big one back.
Now we're gonna go put it up at the restaurant.
We just want the small one, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
It'd be hard to cash it at the bank.
Yeah, it would.
Oh, yeah. Mr. Mayor, would you mind signing it on the side anywhere, just so that we can?
Oh,
just
yeah.
Anywhere, the council, if you guys just wanna, is this an opt-out session for us? Anywhere is good, so that at least we can, because we get a lot of your residents that come in, and they always wanna know how does it help.
You guys want to
Anywhere, no, anywhere, bigger the better.
Smile, Mike.
Ah, mon Dieu, ils doivent être contents. C'est ça. Comme je disais.
We left a big empty space there.
S'ils veulent l'avoir.
Je l'ai déjà ouvert.
Il va y avoir un changement à faire au niveau de l'accessibilité. Elle a dit que c'était pas assez bon, c'est loin.
They don't teach you.
All right, guys, we'll continue our meeting. Try and keep it low just because the mic picks up on all the little
2 minutes,
noises.
we're out of here.
Thanks very much again, guys. We'll move on to the next item, which is item D, temporary boring bylaw report FS 43-2019. The council receives report FS 43-2019 dated December 16, 2019. Adopts a temporary boring bylaw. Question, comment, members of council? Councilor Janoski.
I just want a quick question to Mr. Godin, just to confirm that this is just a standard annual practice. It's not because we're low in our cash flow is affected or anything.
Mr. Godin?
Through Mr. Mayor, that's correct, Councilor Tarnowski. So basically, it's a new bylaw we bring every year. Well, since I've been here, we haven't had a need to go into our line of credit. But since we collect taxes and we don't make the first collection before March, it could happen if we had some big projects in January and February that we would need it. But it is just a standard procedure.
Thank you very much, Mr. Godin. Move on to the next item, item E, year-end transfers, report FS 44-2019. The council receives report FS 44-2019 dated December 16, 2019, and approves of the 2019 budget surplus, should there be one, following the automatic reserves transfer as prescribed by the reserves policy in Schedule A, be used to reduce the unfinanced portion of the Sports Stone project, and that council approves the transfers of funds to 2020 for works in progress but not completed in 2019. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration, Mr. Godin?
Oui, merci, Monsieur le Maire. Bonsoir, chers membres du Conseil. Just to mention, we just brought a minor amendment to Schedule B. We just added an operational line where there might be a transfer. We're doing a study for a business plan for the service in the industrial park. We had $20,000 tagged for that in 2019, but we haven't had that invoice yet, so we'll be transferring that as well to 2020.
Okay, parfait. Merci, Monsieur Godin. Anything else? Councilor Lorrain?
So is that last is that 288,000 the last amount owing on the government?
Monsieur Godin?
Through Mr. Mayor, so Councilor Lawrence, so the $288,000, that's as per the 2020 budget. So in the 2020 budget, we do have some transfers that are budgeted. And if nothing else changes, that's the amount we would have on the fund finance at the end of 2020. So by transferring the surplus here, we're gonna reduce that amount.
But otherwise, we'll be
Otherwise,
using 200 and whatever thousand out of the 2020 budget to pay what's owing?
No, that's the end of the year balance. So it's all, it's done conjointly with the rec complex reserve strategy.
Right.
So basically at the end of 2020, we're gonna have $288,000 left to pay. So in 2021, 288 is gonna go towards that, and the rest is gonna go towards that council.
Recreational
Okay.
complex.
Excellent. Okay.
Other questions? No? We'll move on to the next item. Item F, tax collection policy update, report FS 45-2019. The council received report FS 45-2019 dated December 16, 2019, adopts a proposed bylaw updating the tax collection policy. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration?
Yeah, so basically just a few procedural updates. It is a pretty recent policy, but since 2017, we've introduced e-billing, and there were minor changes in the tax sale procedures. So we just updated the policy to reflect that.
Perfect, thank you very much, Mr. Goodman. Councilor Sosia?
Yeah, so we are only allowing 3 years now elapsed instead of the 5.
Mr. Goodman?
Through Mr. Mayor, so it's actually, it went from 3 to 2. So basically,
3 to 2,
yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Move on to the next item, item G, fence bylaw amendment report PIC 34-2019 relating to the use of page wire fencing. Questions, comments, members of council? Councilor Chernowski?
I'd just like to ask, what is the issue with page wire fencing? Why are we putting this bylaw within complaints, or is it just because it's unsightly? Just ask.
Yeah, Monsieur Leduc, Madame Tremblay.
Good evening. So yes, we did have a complaint that people were using those type of fence in residential property, on residential properties, and that this type of fence was not addressed as a prohibited material for fencing. So we are bringing a report to council to change the bylaw.
Councilor Chernowski?
So I'm still not clear what the issue is other than that one complaint. Is there a danger in having that type? I'm not saying that it's nice or pretty, or I'm not commenting on that. I'm just wondering if we're just putting in, we're saying no to this material because of one resident complaint.
Through Mr. Mayor, was not just one complaint, so we had a couple of complaints regarding that material. And it's usually something that other municipality address in their fence bylaw as well.
Okay. So it's a standard.
Yeah, it's a standard, and we didn't have it in our fence bylaw.
So it's just once there was a complaint when we looked at our bylaw, we
And then
realized
we
there was.
found that it was
that it
something
wasn't-
that other municipalities were putting as a prohibited
Yeah.
material.
And we're talking about residential properties,
Yeah.
or farms can still use it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Councilor Sosi?
Well, I think you kind of answered my question. I just wanted to make sure that, so that's like that wire fence with the squares
Yes.
that we see on farms?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would be so nice in residential.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions? No? Move on to the next item. Item H, engineering services for the feasibility study report ISPW 21-2019. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration? No? Great. Move on to the next item. Item I, Drinking Water System Operational Plan Endorsement Report, ISWAT 03-2019. Questions, comments, members of council? Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, maybe for that report, we could, that's the item that was brought forward to council a couple months ago, maybe 3 months ago. We're sole sourcing for that study, that feasibility study we wanna do for the snow dump facility. So we went out, we asked, we sent invitation, plus it was public, that invitation as well. And we only received that one bid, same bid that was presented to council last time.
Thank you very much. So item I, the Drinking Water System Operational Plan Endorsement. Any questions, comments, members of council? Conseil Tarnowski?
So I just wanted to, just ask, what are the comments that Township's sending? Is Township supposed to be responding to that with comments? I just wanted to confirm what they are.
Oh, no, we're on item I. I think it's J.
I thought we were,
Okay,
sorry.
no problem. We'll move on to item J now. So the EA from the nation regarding water to Limoges, report ISWAT 06-2019. So this, all members of council had the report. Myself, Monsieur DeVic, Monsieur Bourgon had the opportunity to attend an open house in Limoges in regards to their plans for a new water source for the village of Limoges. There were some comments, I think, that they're listed a little bit in the report, but one item that was highlighted by the study was stating that Russell Township did not have the capacity to service the village of Limoges long-term. That being said, it's not that we don't have the capacity. We have a contract with the city of Ottawa. However, Nation has never asked us to inquire with the city of Ottawa if it would be possible to get more capacity to service Limoges. So it was kind of the way you would read it in the report. It's as if, you know, there's nothing we could do for them. Whereas I think that, you know, if they made a request of us, we could definitely approach the city of Ottawa to look at opening that contract and seeing is the feasibility there. Now, not putting the onus on Township or Russell saying they can't do it, it's more onus on Nation Township to see if they're interested in us having conversations with the city of Ottawa. They just have to ask. So, Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Bourgon, I don't know if you wanted to comment on the open house at all, Monsieur Bourgon?
Merci, Monsieur Mayor. So I think your explanation that resumed one of our comment that basically for that option that we were never consultants, I think there's an opportunity at least to sit down. So that's going to be one of our comment. We want to ask the nation to present us a financial plan of how it's going to be financed. They're proposing several phases of construction, but we don't have any more information that if one phase or if more units require, or let me take a step back. There's in the phase one, there's X amount of units available for Clarence Rockland and the nation. In the event that the Clarence Rockland uses those units sooner than expected, well, that means there are some upgrades required in their plan. So how does the nation will have to contribute to still maintain their amount of units promised, or so it's to see how it would have to be financed throughout all those upgrades if they're required sooner.
We've received verbally from Nation Township that stating that our existing residents who are on the Nation water system in Limoges would not be affected by this. But I think we should be making a comment here and requesting some written statement clarifying that, you know, growth is paying for growth, and it's not going to be existing residents on the Russell Township side who are actually going to be asked to contribute to this system. So I think we just have to verify with that, get it in writing to protect our residents. Councilor Associate?
So is that why right now their preferred option is Rockland?
Monsieur Leduc, Monsieur Bourgon?
Well, the preferred option, it's the way it's presented, it's for capacity.
Okay.
The system from Clarence Rockland can offer more capacity. And again, as Mr. Mayor just mentioned, we haven't really looked at the option of increasing our no water window from Ottawa, or to see if there's more water. So that option, it's maybe not valid to, like, to the maximum, to see if we can produce that amount of units or not. But at this point in time, it's really based on the amount of capacity that can be provided by Clarence Rock.
Conseil Brisson?
C'est juste, je trouve ça un peu bizarre qu'il ait fait la réunion là, quand que dans les autres temps, c'est quasiment comme si c'était dans le deal avec Rockland, comme si c'était signé tout ça. Comme, je trouve ça comme, plus ou moins juste pour bien paraître qu'ils mettent ça.
Ben, je pense que c'est un requis pour le processus d'études environnementales. C'est pour ça qu'ils l'ont mis. Nous autres, on a demandé des questions avant la réunion publique. C'était peut-être pour ça aussi que cette option-là était inclue in the environmental assessment. But they had signed a memorandum of understanding with the city of Clarence Rockland at this point in time. A few months ago, yes. So, like I say, it's a matter of them saying there's no capacity. Well, they haven't asked us if it's possible to get capacity. They've just made that assumption and then have moved on to the city of Clarence Rockland. So we can make those comments. We can, as part of the EA process, we can ask for financial plan details, because I think that after our conversations afterwards that meeting, we had a lot of questions that we would like to see the answers to in order to protect our current and future residents on the Russell side in the village of Lenoir. So, Conseil Brisson?
C'est juste, je suis pas encore complètement comme clair sur la chose, mais vu que c'est l'eau, d'habitude paye pour l'eau, je sais que la nation est-tu comme ça pour eux autres aussi?
Que la croissance paye pour la croissance?
Ben, non, mais même aussi, c'est pas les taxes générales qui payent pour l'eau.
Non, c'est user fees.
User fees, tout ça.
Ouais.
Qu'est-ce que je comprends pas encore, c'est, puis que je sais pas si ça a été demandé, s'ils ont plus de résidents, même s'ils soient avec Russell, pour leur aider à payer ce projet-là, pourquoi qu'ils ne l'offrent pas des unités, justement? Parce que c'est pas nous autres qui couvrent l'argent des unités, ça va juste leur en faire plus d'unités.
Ben, je crois, il y a présentement, une fois que le système est en place, il va y avoir des allocations disponibles. Je pense que les résidents sur le côté, les développeurs sur le côté de Russell qui aimeraient ça développer leur terrain peuvent faire la demande comme ça a toujours été fait. Il n'y a pas eu mention que c'était juste pour le côté de nation à ce point-ci. On a un agreement en place. Monsieur le Duc?
Monsieur le membre du Conseil, bonsoir. Ben, comme eux n'ont pas fait la demande à nous de demander à Ottawa des capacités additionnelles, nous non plus, ils nous disent on n'a pas fait la demande qu'on fasse l'achat d'une unité d'eau. Donc, un peu à l'inverse, nous non plus. Et nous, la raison pour laquelle on n'a pas fait d'accord, c'est parce qu'on travaille sur notre IA pour amener de l'eau de nos services à Limoges, pour nos services à nous. Nous, on pense que cette option-là est moins dispendieuse qu'à la leur. Puis, M. le maire et moi, on a rencontrés, on a dit, ben, tant qu'on n'aura pas notre idée du coût par unité qu'on va avoir avec cette option-là, on ne sait pas si l'option offerte par Russell pour nous-mêmes est meilleur marché que celle de Rockland Nation pour nos résidents. Donc, pour le moment, on n'a pas l'information. On va s'en aller bientôt en début de 2020. Mais pour l'instant, on n'a pas fait la demande non plus de notre côté pour payer une partie des unités.
Bon, parce que c'est ça, c'est que vu que ça ne revient pas à nous autres, c'est pour ça que même si les unités vont sur un bord ou sur l'autre, c'est les autres qui vont recouvrir l'argent pareil. C'est ça que je vous dis.
Oui. Mais à ce point-ci, comme M. Leduc dit, on attend l'étude environnementale de notre côté, voir si ça coûte, on va dire, 5 000 $ la porte chez nous, puis ça coûte 10 000 $ sur leur bord, ben, on veut donner l'opportunité aux développeurs de notre côté d'être capable de travailler avec la municipalité pour dire, ça vaut notre peine d'aller avec la municipalité de Russell, on veut amener les services, on est prêt à faire tel engagement. So it's dollars and cents, that's what it comes down to, which one's going to be the better deal. Once we know the numbers on both sides, then we'll be able to have a more frank discussion. But at this point in time, it's trying to find out what the financial plan is from the nation and municipality in this case. Monsieur Leduc?
I'd also like to inform Council, this is a solution for water. We have not seen the solution for sewage. But the thing that is to be said publicly is, as we experienced ourselves, back in 2008, when we decided to bring water from Ottawa, we realized quickly that we needed more lagoons to issue capacity. So again, this is again only applied to water, but certainly if you're being all this water, you should be getting an answer to your sewage before you proceed. Again, it's something we don't have to comment on tonight because it's not part of the water EA, but it's something just for council information that this is something we've raised with them, saying you may have more water, but you don't have any sewage. Then what? So.
We're just trying to share a little bit of wisdom of life experience on our side of the fence. Okay, any other questions, comments? We'll move on to the next item. Item K, Community Grants Report PR 38-2019. The council receives report PR 38-2019 dated December 16, 2019, and approves the following department's recommendations for community grant donations in 2020 to the following group. 1, to refuse an ad hoc grant in the amount of $4,000 to the Association des Loisirs Communautaires d'Ambrun for the carnival from January 16 to 26, 2020. According to the community grants and contribution guidelines, the above request does not meets our requirements for funding. Questions, comments, members of council? We all read the report. They were given lots of notice to apply for this before the budget, and they didn't take that opportunity. Conseil, that?
Is this for budget 2020 or 2019?
2020. They're asking for $4,000. And we put in the budget, we put the additional $5,000 for the radio communautaire. That pretty much ate up all the extra that we usually have that year.
And how much, and so the last few years, they've only asked for, like, what's the history been, just to remind me, please?
Yep.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of council. Last January, again, for the 2019 budget, they did not present a request for the 2019 budget. So we did the same thing as we did this year. We just budgeted for the carnival for the free use of the halls. So we gave them around $4,000 of free halls, and they never requested any cash money. But then in the summertime for the Summerfest, they came in and asked for $4,000. I came to council with this. We rejected the request because, again, this was not part of the plan. They never requested that money before. And also there was a mention that they were giving money in bursaries. So council did not agree to this kind of way to distribute the grants. So this was refused. In September, early September, we sent them an email, like I said in my report. We always do that out of good faith to all our major groups to invite them to present their request because we need to know what their needs are for the upcoming year. And they never replied, they never sent anything. We just received the request on December 3rd, requesting for the 2020 budget. I did put the pre-approved for the free usage of halls again, but I did not put any ad hoc money there. So.
Okay. We're okay with this item? Okay. My apologies, I'm going to have to take a 10-minute break. We'll be back at 6:40. Okay. On est prêt à commencer? Welcome back, everyone. Sorry about that. We'll move on to the next item, item L, the amendment to the Establishing Fire and Rescue Services Bylaw Report, Russ M. 07-2019. The council receives the report dated December 16, 2019, and the council adopts a bylaw to amend the Establishing Fire and Rescue Services Bylaw 2018-165 to add Schedule L promotion process for Russell Township Fire and Rescue Services. Questions, comments, members of council? Anything to add from the administration, Chief Armstrong?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, it's just to standardize the promotion process with the two stations. So whenever we're promoting officers within the two stations, we do the same process. So it's not part of our business plan.
Okay, thank you so much. Any questions? No, we'll move on to the next item, item M. 2019 council members market study results and analysis and remuneration salary structure review report CAO 17-2019. Council receives report CAO 17-2019 dated December 16, 2019. The council provides the following direction about council's remuneration. That bylaw 2019-88 be amended to that the mayor's annual remuneration be ... retroactive to the first pay period of 2019. or that bylaw 2019-88 be amended so that the mayor's annual remuneration be ... retroactive to the first pay period of 2019 and be ... as of the first pay period of 2020, and that the 2020 COLA as determined by section 1B of this bylaw be applied or not. Time for questions, comments, discussion, members of council. Councillor Chinoski?
So for one thing, I'd like to move that outside of the consent items.
Okay.
And then I'd like to discuss a couple of things. So thank you very much, Monsieur Leduc, for preparing all this. A lot of research that went into that, and gave me a lot to think about. I'm just gonna give you my opinions. So first of all, on the aspect of full-time versus part-time, I think that's something that we need to figure out. And I, for one, don't wanna start kind of, having the mayor check in every morning, it shouldn't be like that. So, in my opinion, full-time, part-time could be very easily decided on. If a mayor has a full-time job outside of council, then they cannot be full-time here. And so it's either a part-time mayor that has a full-time job outside, or a mayor that doesn't have anything else other than the township to be considered as a full-time mayor. That would be one way of addressing that without getting too complicated. I like the approach where we look at our comparator group. I think that is probably the most, in my opinion, most ethical way of doing it, rather than comparing it to a municipality that's next to us. Because if they're doing something wrong, like what's the point of mimicking them just because they're doing something wrong? So by looking at, with the study that we did with a comparator group, I really like that idea. I like that we have already an approach that says we want to be around the 60 percentile mark. We're at 67 as councillors right now, so I think something, moving down the future, saying that, so a part-time mayor and councillors between 60 and 70 percentile, and a full-time mayor, the P90 to a P100 percentile. Then that becomes something that doesn't involve us looking at, say, another municipality that happens to be paying more. We're looking at a comparative group, and we have like a real fair approach to do that. So those are kind of my key points. I would like to also add to that I would like to bring up some other points pertaining to the remuneration bylaw. And so just procedurally, how do I go about talking about that for the future? Because I know that now is not the right time to do that. How do we do that to add to that down the road?
So if there's other aspects of the enumeration bylaw that you would just wanted to discuss, we could discuss those at the January meeting, Madame Camille Laflamme, and any changes decided upon those could come back at the following meeting, I guess early February, because you need at least one meeting notice to make changes to the remuneration bylaw, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, so you could bring those up in January. You can mention it now, but we'll discuss them in January, and depending how the conversation goes, it could be voted on in early February.
Okay, so should I point out the items, or should we just wait till January to point out those items? Those are other parts to it.
That puts Farans, I guess. Madame Camille, Monsieur Leduc?
I think last time we made a point that it had to be raised first
Yeah.
before being discussed after. So either tonight or the next meeting, could
Yeah.
be whenever you want to raise the
Yeah, so if you want to raise it tonight to discuss in January, you raise them in January and we discuss them in February. It's up to you.
I want to raise them tonight, we discuss them in January.
Sure. So just list off the items that you would like to discuss, and that way it's on the record that we'll be discussing those in January.
Okay, so furthermore to my comments, I would like to add.
In regards to this item?
Yes.
Okay, I'll just let the.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Councilor Lorrain?
But so procedurally, correct me, because you're gonna tell me I'm wrong, but when the remuneration bylaw is open right now, because we've got an item on the table that's going to amend the remuneration bylaw, so why can't we discuss other pieces of that bylaw tonight? Why do we have to wait for another meeting to do so?
Well, any other changes would not take effect. We can't vote on any other changes tonight. because we didn't give notice of those potential changes. So if we have the discussion tonight and give direction to administration, they come back in January, we could discuss it and vote on it that night, but you actually have to give notice to the changes you're doing.
I was always under the impression that as soon as that bylaw was open, anything was fair game to talk about and change. Because that has happened in the past with other things in the bylaw, and specifically the remuneration bylaw, so.
And that's why it was corrected the last time that we opened it. That's where clarification was. You have to give notice of the change. Because then you could say, we're going to talk about item A, and nobody cares about item A, and then we do items B, C, D, and E and change those things, and members of the public could be like, well, if I knew you were talking about B, C, D, and E, I would have made the effort to be there because that was important to me.
But the entire bylaw's open, right? So anyone who has any problems with the bylaw in its entirety, or any portion of it.
But people don't know that there's changes potentially coming, right? If we're changing things tonight without giving notice, that kind of defeats the purpose of giving notice.
I don't know, that one
Can we
is.
step down?
Mr. Mayor, I have the bylaw, and I have the section if you'd like me to read that part.
Sure, maybe.
So that was bylaw 2019-088, and it says the waiving of notice is prohibited, and no amendment or repeal of this bylaw or any part thereof shall be considered at any meeting of council unless notice of the proposed amendment or repeal is given at a previous meeting of council.
So, because Councillor Tanoski's items that he's bringing up were not brought forward last time, we could not go ahead with those amendment changes this time.
That wasn't specific to notice of motions?
No, that's in the bylaw itself of your enumeration bylaw. There's 2 or 3 bylaws that we have that have that specific clause.
The procedural bylaw and this one that I know
Yeah.
of.
That's the 2 major ones. So, Councillor Janoski, you can mention the items you want to discuss, and that way we're giving notice this evening that we'll discuss them in January.
Okay, so I have 4 points that I would like to discuss in the future meeting then. So I'd like to review the penalty for missed meetings, just to adjust that to a more realistic amount, or to discuss. With that added accountability, I would also like to see premium paid for meetings, additional meetings throughout the year, so if we have additional meetings, so to discuss that point of view as well. I would like to review the committee rate as well, when we sit on committees. And would like to add value to all our volunteers, and I'm not sure if it's in this particular one, but last time I brought this up, I was asked to bring it up when we did the remuneration bylaw. And it's about the volunteers in our committees, recognized committees, to add value to them with a walking membership for the dome as a way of recognizing their time with us. So those are the points I would like to discuss in January.
Thank you very much. Now, that being said, if there's other items of the enumeration bylaw somebody would like to discuss, if you give notice tonight, then we'll be able to discuss those in January as well. Conseil Lanner?
Since we're gonna talk about at the next meeting, penalties for missed meetings, I would like to ask council to direct staff to find other municipalities that have similar bylaws to the effect of regulating themselves versus the municipal act regulating their attendance. So I would like to have that as part of any discussion that we're gonna have in terms of penalties for missed meetings. Because we had this discussion, 2 years ago? And, I know one member of council, Councilor Tanoski, wasn't part of this council, but we've already had the discussion, we probably put it through already. So, I don't know why we're bringing it back up again, why we're gonna self-regulate even further, when I think the only time it's ever happened in 9 years or 10 years that we've had it, happened one time. So, that a penalty was applied.
I think it shouldn't be that difficult, because I believe in this study here, the question was asked, and there were some numbers given in the study. Monsieur Leduc?
Yeah, out of the 13 respondents, 2 had felonies and 11 did not have any felonies.
Are we discussing it now?
No, so it's just pointing that fact out, so the information will be easily retrievable. Councillor Sosi?
I just had a question, about, why we were doing, retroactive back to the beginning of 2019, or the other option of January 2020, what was the decision?
Mr. Leduc?
Well, council gave a direction during the budget deliberations last year. You have put aside $15,000 for that amount of money for the year 2019. Council has full discretion to say when it starts. I mean, I'm just suggesting that you put away the money for the year, but you could say not applicable or partial, partly, or any other date council wishes to set.
Just add the point that if the study had been done in January and the council had voted on that in January, then it would have been in effect. But it's totally up to council's discussion. Conseil Brisson?
Quand je crois que c'était un excellent point qu'on a commencé à faire aussi, que les conseillers puis le maire ont la même augmentation que les employés. Comme ça, ça ne revient pas que c'est en retard, puis là, on est obligé de soit se donner des grosses augmentations, des choses comme ça. On l'a vu que ça suivait pas se faire. C'est sûr que quand que tu refais une étude, ça peut varier parce que c'est jamais les mêmes municipalités qui sont prises. Mais je crois que ça, c'est une très bonne chose. Puis définitivement que je dirais pour le salaire du maire, que ça soit augmenté au moins au P60, parce que c'était le minimum qu'on avait dit pour les employés. Puis j'aurais pas de problème même jusqu'au à 67, vu que nous autres on est à 67 aussi comme c'est là. Fait que les deux montants, moi j'aurais pas de problème dans ces deux options 1 et 2. J'allais avec ça.
Okay. Conseiller Lorrain?
I'll bring my 2 cents in. I think going to P60 I'm fine with, but I would start it in January 2020.
Well, the administration's looking for direction, guys, so we have to give them direction now.
Well, that'll be during the resolution, won't it?
Yeah, if we want to continue the discussion at that point in time, that's fine. Everybody's good with when we pull this item up, okay? Move on to item N, creation of a teen and senior advisory committee, report CAO 18.19. The council receives report CAO 18.19 dated 16.19, and the council adopts an amendment to the committee's bylaw. So to confirm the creation of 2 new committees, and the clerk launches the process of recruitment in the new year, so that committee members be appointed as soon as possible. Questions, comments, members of council? Conseiller Brisson.
Je suis pas vraiment contre. La seule chose que je doute, c'est un peu de l'utilité de cette chose-là. Qu'est-ce que je veux m'expliquer? C'est juste que quand pour les teams, peut-être que ça serait plus efficace de faire sûr que les comités comme PREC, environnement, accessibilité, qui aient comme 2 nouveaux positions pour avoir des plus jeunes dedans, faire sûr. Mais en général, aussi, même les seniors sont représentés. Qu'est-ce que j'irais plus, qui était une... parce que je sais que c'était pas une promesse électorale, mais un peu, là. C'était pour pouvoir aider les jeunes et les plus vieux, si on avait une structure qu'une fois ou 2 fois par année, le conseil, on rencontrait les clubs pour pouvoir discuter, qu'ils ont la chance de discuter avec nous autres, qu'est-ce qu'ils aiment moins avec nous autres. Je sais qu'il y a d'autres municipalités qui le font, puis que comme les associations aiment le contact direct et plus informel, que ce ne serait pas quand que nous autres, comme en avant, là, ce serait plus un consultation meeting pour la chose. Moi, c'est ma position dessus.
Okay. So, juste pour être clair, ça c'est un thème qui est dans le plan stratégique que le conseil a adopté, que ça ferait partie du plan stratégique under item O under Pillar Foster Healthy and Inclusive Communities. So that's part of the strategic plan. That's why it's being brought back to council at this point in time. Conseiller Lorrain?
I'm 100% behind the creation of both of these items. reason why I think the teen one will work versus the suggestion that Councilor Brisson just mentioned to put a couple of teens on each committee is that I think they'll get lost in the shuffle. I think they need to have their own voice, and when they're sitting with a group of their peers, they're going to talk. They're going to want to make action. They're going to know that their voices are being heard, and especially when they can bring an item to council that they thought of, that they brought up, that their peers have told them is important. And I think that'll hold more weight than having two people on a committee or one person on a committee who gets outvoted by the other adults that are sitting there at the table when wanting to recommend stuff to the council. So, and then, you know, I could almost repeat the exact same thing for the seniors committee. The biggest thing that I heard during the campaign was that we're not listening to seniors. So, you know, whether we put a couple of seniors on the committees as well, I mean, we're in a committees of 18 people. So while I respect your position on it, I have to disagree with it, and I think we need to move forward with the creation of these two advisory committees.
Thank you very much. Other questions or comments? Totally agreement with Councilor Lorraine. There's a reason that we put this in the strategic plan, is because we heard this during the election. We heard that these two groups were looking to have some kind of representation, some kind of voice at our council meeting, so I suggest we move ahead. Councilor Tarnowski?
So I love the idea. I just wanted to know, in terms of setting the parameters for it and guidelines, and in terms of process of what the focus of discussion is and so on, how does that work for those types of committees?
So at this point in time, Monsieur Leduc, there's in the bylaw, there's a term, slight terms of reference to the composition, that kind of stuff, what the goals are, but I think these are going to be two committees that are really going to guide themselves as where they want to go, what to bring to council. And Monsieur Leduc?
Yeah, that's the initial mandate and process, and certainly maybe one of the first items of discussion at the committee level would be, are we okay with this mandate? Are there any recommendations you'd like to expand it? And maybe come back to council with a recommendation to say we'd like our mandate to be expanded or changed. But to start off, I think that's where we want it to go, and we can add to it if you feel like adding it to it. But at one point, they could come in and, like we do with other committees, recommend changes to be made to the mandate.
Thank you.
Conseil Brisson?
Just for technical, that we should put some age, 14, and what would it be, age 14 and senior, because I know for Joie de Vivre, c'est 50, some of the group are 55, and the teen, how young do you want them to opt to what?
Well, for the teen group, it's suggested that it's 3 members of each high school representatives. That way we'll have representation at each high school, and there'll be conduits to other students in the high school. So we're looking at high school age at this point in time.
So it's just
Yeah. Mr. Leduc?
And for seniors, the terms make reference to 55 years of age and older.
And Mr. Mayor, for the teen, it says 14 to 18 in the terms of reference.
Okay, we're good with that? Okay. Next item 12, the reports from an investigator and the ombudsman, we have none. Item 13, notice of motions, we have none. Item 14, question period on meeting of the day, we have none. Item 15, resolutions, request to move the regular council meeting of January 20th to January 13th, 2020. Need a mover and a seconder to put it on the table. Moved by Conseil Tarnowski, second by Conseil Associé. Questions, comments? Councilor Lorraine?
Was this already discussed and moved? Because
This was discussed at the last meeting, to be brought forward, bring back this meeting.
okay, it's just because in my calendar it's already on the 15th.
Yeah,
Madame Camille Laflamme?
yeah, we switched it just in, because
That's the way
most
council was
were,
going.
yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's just we had to bring a resolution. It was a council member item that I got last week.
And then we'll post it when it's adopted.
I thought January was always the second Monday.
Monsieur Leduc?
So,
Oh, we switched.
At one point, it used to be that, and we changed it because when people come back from vacation, they come back on the 6th, and the first week was just too quickly. And now because of the conference now, it forces us to push it back to where it used to be.
Alright. Since I already thought it was the 13th.
Good, okay, all those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. Item B, motion from reports, motion that council approve all recommendations listed on the agenda under item number 11, reports from departments and council committees. So I need a mover and seconder put on table, moved by Conseil Bisson, seconded by Councilor Tanoski. Amendment to remove item M, suggested by Councilor Tanoski, seconded by Conseil Brisson. All those in favor of removing the item separately? Okay, that's removed. So we're voting on everything except M. All those in favor? All those opposed? Carried. We are now coming back to the council members' market study results. Item M, I need a mover and seconder to put it on the floor. Moved by Conseiller Tanoski, seconded by Conseiller Brisson. Suggestions? Councilor Tanoski.
I would like to propose that we have a different percentile for part-time mayor versus full-time mayor on the distinction that a full-time mayor does not have another full-time job, for one. Secondly, I would ask that we set the mayor's salary for a part-time mayor between the 60 and 70 percentile, which is what councilors currently have, and a full-time mayor between 90 and 100 percentile as a full-time mayor. Again, using the comparative group, which most accurately, or which should most accurately reflect our municipality.
Okay. We have one moved by Councilor Tanoski. Do we have a seconder? Have the discussion. Seconded by Councilor Saucier. Questions on that? Conseiller Brisson?
Comme la section de maire à temps plein va plus cher, je peux pas être pour parce que c'est à peu près le même ouvrage. Puis quand que c'est juste j'avais parlé avec Monsieur le Duc, puis dans le survey qu'il avait fait, les deux qui étaient à temps plein n'étaient pas plus hauts que la moyenne.
Monsieur le Duc?
Oui, Monsieur le maire. Dans la dernière réunion de conseil, on avait posé la question à Mme Kennedy. Quels étaient les salaires annuels des maires qui étaient à temps plein? Il y avait 2 maires dans les 13 qui étaient à temps plein. Donc, un des maires a 55 500 et puis l'autre maire à temps plein a 45 400. Donc, ça joue. Il n'y a pas de règle. On peut voir, c'est pas 70, c'est pas 80. C'est son montant.
Okay. Councilor Saucier?
And I also agree with Councilor Laurent that it's effective January 2020.
Okay. Right now, the amendment, we have it on the table for the 60 to 70% if we consider it part-time, 90 to 100% if it's considered full-time. The explanation of Councilor Tanoski is if a mayor has a full-time job elsewhere, then this is considered a part-time job for him. And if he doesn't have a full-time job elsewhere, this is considered a full-time job, a designation. Councilor Lai?
How do we define full-time job for like outside of here? I think we need to make a decision on whether the position is full-time or part-time. If that's what we're gonna do, I find it hard that we say somebody has a full-time here, part-time there, or vice versa. Right? I mean, somebody can be, good at both jobs or good at neither job. Like I'm just trying, I can't wrap my head around the fact that we'd have 2 different salaries and what they would actually be. You know what I mean? Like I'm trying to.
So realistically, I'll just make a quick comment. There is no designation full-time or part-time anywhere. The designation for the role of the mayor is in the municipal act. And that's the only designation that's, if whether you look at 2 mayors or 2 municipalities contemplated it as a full-time position, what is there designated differently? There is no designation. This is the job, whether somebody handles it as a part-time job or a full-time job, that's their choice. That being said, you know, can you realistically do this job full-time as you're doing another job full-time? Perhaps some people could. I know it's time-consuming, and, you know, I'm happy to do the job, but we have to think long-term here. We're not just talking about we're not just talking about my salary, we're talking about the position of mayor's salary. So I think that's where we should concentrate the discussion. Councillor Township, then Conseil Brisson.
Monsieur Leduc, est-ce que je peux vous demander, ça serait quoi le salaire au P90 encore? Je pensais que je l'avais dans mes notes. I can't find it.
So in the Corn February report, the last meeting, the P90 for the mayor is 50,682.
Okay. So just to clarify, Councilor Lorraine said, like, it's the challenge of figuring out the part-time, full-time, and I agree that there is no easy way. That's why I was proposing, if we were gonna go look at that would be one way of doing it without having to really get into the weeds of this. The other aspect to this whole discussion is the difference between a P60 and a P90, what that is in terms of total. So if a P60 is a 45 and a P90 is 51, we're talking about a $6,000 difference for the year. It's not a big difference, not a big enough difference where I want to go into a lot of detail trying to figure out if the mayor is putting in 35 or 40 hours a week working here. So that's just my point pertaining to that. That's why I wanted a simple, what I thought was a simple way to figure it out. And again, I think that I want to make sure that we attract the right people. If we just say that it's a full-time job and they get $6,000 more, what happens when the next mayor, like, I'm not sure that, you know, we can't dictate the person that's gonna get elected. You know, what if I wanna run for mayor next time around and I've got a full-time job and I don't wanna leave my full-time job? I may do a crappy job as a mayor, but I'll be elected. So I wanna make sure that we have some sort of kind of control over, you know, giving a larger salary, and all of a sudden we have someone that may not be as committed to the role because they have another full-time job somewhere else. So I'm not sure how to reconcile that.
Thank you very much. Just to clarify, council as a whole controls the salaries of its members wholeheartedly. So if council decides one day they don't find somebody's doing the job to council's expectation, council can turn around and say, we're lowering your salary. And that's the way it is. There is no rhyme. We're trying to find rhyme and reason in an area where there really isn't any, and that's unfortunate. But that's the decision we're faced with making. Conseil Brisson.
Moi, tout ça, je dis vraiment que tu sois la position considérée permanente ou non, ça ne fait pas une grosse différence. C'est le salaire. C'est pour ça, moi, je dis de le rester. Comme c'était part-time, parce que même arriver quelqu'un qui dit tu vas payer plus cher parce qu'il n'y a pas un autre job, mais il ne met pas le commitment dedans de venir que peut-être que celui qui a un autre job va le faire. Fait que c'est vraiment à nous autres à décider. Ça fait que moi, c'est pour ça que je dis de revenir, on discute du salaire, and that's it. Puis que là, vu que pour les employés, moi, c'est vrai, là, on ne peut pas parler de l'autre résolution. Parce que
comme c'est là, on parle de man.
Mais c'est pour ça que moi, j'aime pas je peux pas supporter cette proposition-là parce que on veut décider un prix que la personne, qu'elle ait un autre job ou qu'elle ait pas un autre job, mais ça dépend comme qu'est-ce qu'elle fait ici, c'est le même salaire qu'il y a. Parce que comme il a dit, quelqu'un qui est part-time, qui n'a pas d'autre job, ça ne veut pas dire qu'il va faire une bonne job non plus, qui va être aussi attendance que dedans. Personnellement, c'est pour ça que je ne peux pas supporter la résolution comme qu'elle est.
Conseil Lorrain.
To me, the question becomes is what is council's expectations of the role? I don't care if it's Mayor LaRue who's in the role or anybody else who's in the role going forward. It's what are our expectations of the role? And if we think it's somebody that's full-time, then we go P90. If we think it's somebody that's doing the job like the last 3 mayors have done, or 4 mayors have done, or 6 mayors have done, then is it part-time? Is it not? Like, I don't think the designation of part-time or full-time even matters at this point. It's what salary are we prepared to assign to the mayor's chair, regardless of who's sitting there, right? So at this point in time, I mean, I find it hard, I guess maybe it's just me, I find it hard to believe that the position is, or that number has changed significantly from, what, 4 years ago when we did this? Where the mayor's salary was way out of whack to the study that was done, right? Because yours didn't change, and we were far below, which is why ours went up. And now it seems that because of cost of living, ours now we're at P67, it sounds like, versus P60, and the mayor's now is under P60 to where they should have been at P60. So it just seems to me like, wow, that changed rapidly. I can see the 7% for the counselors because of the cost of living, but I didn't see the mayor's one coming that far down. So does it make sense, since everybody else is at P60, to put the mayor's position at P60? 100%. Now, is that the right number? Well, that's for us to decide, right? We assign a number to it. So, to be honest, I don't know what that number is either. I mean, right now, if I see in the report, what's the mayor's salary? Now, did they take it, it's in the report, right? I'm not asking.
No, it's in the report. I believe it's around 41,000. We have the study, and we have Prescott-Russell as well. That's included, the comparison to local as well.
C'est 40,864, le nombre actuel.
But was that taken into account the jump that happened this year because of the loss of the percentage, the 30%?
The third tax free?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was taken into account.
40,864.
Okay.
So,
Councillor Karnowski?
so right now, the mayor's salary at 40.864 is about 10%, is undercompensated by 10% to reach the 60%, which would be 45,598. To reach the 67 percentile to match the counselors would be 47,500, so another $2,000 more, to 47,500.
Councillor Brisson?
But as I did mention, whenever we had the presentation from, it's not Big Group anymore, it's
Corn Ferry.
Corn Ferry. It always depends of the group that respond. So that's why it can vary a lot, the amount. So that's why, since we had put the 2% hike, was it that the one that did answer like 4 years ago were a bit low? A bit like whenever we compare with the United Counties, there's one that is at 15, and there's some other at 52 within our region. So that's why with the study, does more municipality with kind of the 15 response the last time, and then this time it's more the people with the 52 that did response. So that's why, personally, I think that's a guide, and we have the guide with the other municipality too that we're competing. So that, but I cannot suggest any more resolution right now, but I was going more for the option 2 since for now.
And to be fair, I understand it's a very hard subject. You know, I think we have comparables, but you know, some things are, you know, if you have, Russell Township is roughly 17,000 people at this point in time. There's a difference between a municipality that has 17,000 people who's in full growth mode and 17,000 that's actually declining. And that's not necessarily looked at that function in this report. Councillor Janowski? So we're still on this amendment here. We can vote on it, make changes, amendments to the amendment is also a possibility if we want to go that route, so.
Just to,
Yep, Councillor Janowski?
just 2 points to make. So, Councillor Brisson said, looking at the local municipalities that we're in competition with, for this position, the mayor, the councillor, we're not in competition. Like we chose to come up here and get elected. So we're not, it's not as if they're gonna steal us because they're paying more or paying less. So very much different from the corporate side, for one thing. Secondly, I would just, whatever we decide on, I would really appreciate if we have something that's defensible, that's somewhat logical, and that where we can, you know, like, if this is published in the paper, that we can stand by and be proud of, that we're using a good logical approach. Or as much of a logical approach as possible. And that's why I think that that study that we did, where they're comparing apples with apples, or should be, if they did the job properly, we should definitely look at what they're doing. And rather than looking at other local municipalities, I'm really concerned if we follow local municipalities.
Councillor Brisson.
Just maybe one thing that we have to remember, the last time, since the council was lower too, just to remember, we did put, since the employees were going for P60, we went for this, and we just stayed the other salary the same. So I don't know if that's what we want to do again this time around.
Okay, well, right now, at this point in time, we have the amendment proposed and seconded. So if there's no further discussion on that amendment, we'll vote on that amendment. So all those in
Can I
favor?
get clarity on what the actual amendment is?
So the amendment from, and Councillor Tarnowski, correct me if I'm wrong, you stated that a part-time, using your definition, a part-time mayor would be between the 60 and 70 percentile. A full-time mayor would be between the 90 and 100 percentile. Your definition of what is part-time or what is full-time is, if the mayor has a full-time job elsewhere, then his role of mayor is considered a part-time job. And if the mayor does not have a full-time job elsewhere, then his job as mayor is considered full-time. Did I reiterate that properly?
Okay.
That's the amendment. Councillor Socia?
Are we gonna add the date it's starting?
That would be.
This one.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions on this amendment, Councillor Lara?
Yeah, I guess when we say between 60 and 70 and 90 and 100, are we assigning a dollar value? Is that, or that gonna be something that's in another amendment right after this one?
I would assume.
Because we have to pick a number, right?
Yeah,
It's not
that-
like we can't just say between 60 and 70. The second piece is, for someone who's going to run for this position going forward, how do they know what the expectations are if I'm gonna get paid between this much, or I'm gonna get paid that much? What more or less am I gonna do between the two? I can't vote for this right now because I'm confused as to what the mandate is gonna be for someone who's considered part-time versus someone who's considered full-time. Like, what are our expectations, or the people's expectations, because they're ultimately the ones that elect us in to make these decisions, to get paid that extra $6,000, right? What are we getting more for that $6,000 that we wouldn't get from someone in part-time?
Councillor
I need to
Tarnowski?
understand that before I can vote on.
So Councillor, I'm entirely in agreement with you in principle, in the sense that it would be so complex and complicated for us to develop like an actual job description of a full-time mayor versus a part-time mayor, because that doesn't even exist. What I don't want to do is go to a salary, and then the next incumbent that comes in has a job somewhere else and can only check his work, you know, on the weekend, and, you know, do the job like I do it as a counselor, when I sit down and prepare on the weekend, because I have my full-time job. Not to say that I always do that, but you know what I mean, in the sense that it's a lot easier for us to kind of define that when the mayor is elected, to say, okay, well, this mayor is gonna give all their time to this township, or they're splitting their time between their full-time job and this job. It's just, to me, it was the simplest way of figuring it out. If we had another way of kind of figuring out if the mayor is giving 100% of his attention to this position, or they're splitting it between two positions, if there is another way of doing that, that'd be great. I don't want it by default say that the mayor is doing 100% township work all the time, and then the next mayor that comes in doesn't do it, and they're still getting the same salary. I have an issue with it.
So I guess what you're looking for is that you're looking to somewhat set the expectation that if the next election, people who are running for the position know that, well, if you're going to be treating the job as a part-time, you're going to be in this salary range. If you're going to be doing it full-time, you're going to be in this salary range. And council at that point in time, when they vote on their remuneration bylaw at that point in time, can say, okay, well, we consider the mayor's working elsewhere, we consider him part-time, this is his salary, or he's not working full-time elsewhere, this is his salary.
It's just the simplest way I can find it. I can't find, if there is a better way, I'm not for it.
That's a terrible way to start amending.
Yeah.
With 5 people sitting there going, well, I know you work at XYZ company, so you know what, your salary is gonna be less. And that person's gonna say, but I'm gonna still be giving X amount of time for this position. And time isn't just how many hours are gonna be in this office, right? There's a ton of other calculations of time and effort that go into the discussion. Whether or not it's sitting for 3 or 4 hours in this setting, or it's in an office upstairs, or at home in an office.
I know, that's why I don't wanna talk about hours at work and stuff like that.
That's
what I'm
right.
trying to simplify.
So then just pick a number. I think we're wasting, for like I said, $6,000. Let's pick a number as a council and say, that's the number for the mayor's salary going forward until the next council comes in and says differently. I mean, it took this council, I know that in 2003, council salaries changed at that point in time, from $12,000 for councilors, and I don't remember what it was for the mayor, to $15,000 for councilors in 2003. From 2003 until 2 years into our last term, council salaries didn't change. No council ever wanted to touch it. So this council finally did that in the last term and said, we're gonna make sure that council salaries going forward are set, and we don't have to touch them going forward, because of the fact that we're increasing them based on the study to P60, and we're doing cost of living going forward. Now, obviously, there's been a shift because the mayor's salary was over P60, now it's under P60. So to me, we adjust up for the mayor's salary, get it to P67, and say, let's go. And going forward, and if the next council comes in and they want to make an adjustment to the mayor's salary or council salaries, then let them tackle that. We're here to tackle what we can right now, and I don't think, if falling short of saying the position is full-time or the position is part-time, which I don't believe council wants to do at this point in time, then pick a number and let's move on. I mean, I think we're trying to figure out all these things that we just can't figure out.
Pick.
So I'm gonna have to vote against your amendment.
It's in support of what Conseiller Laurent did mention, because as I was saying, you can have somebody that is kind of assigned full-time but doesn't do the job. So that's why I'm supporting having one. But instead of 67, I would say 60, as it was for the employees and as it was for us, because that's what, you can correct me, Mr. Ledoux, but I think that's what it was planned for the employees.
Monsieur Leduc?
For the employer remuneration, it's aims at P60.
Yeah.
And the report last time said to you it can be plus or minus 5%. So if you're at 67, you're only 2% higher than 65. And if you're at 55, it still meets the policy, which you're plus or minus 5%. So if they're saying that's P60, it's not set like that. It's said that aim to be P60.
Okay, so we've discussed this amendment
Yeah.
a lot, so let's vote on the amendment. Councilor Sosi, you got a last comment on the
Yeah, I
amendment?
do have one more. Okay, I'm kind of now leaning towards what Councilor Laurent said, because, I mean, you can also look at each counselor, and, you know, everybody puts in different time. And so, you know, I'd be in favor of putting these 67, 5% right through, and then if the next mayor comes in and he's only, I don't know, working half the time, then they can look at it and say, he shouldn't be at this salary. I think that's a good point.
I think it's a difficult subject, and
Yeah.
actually, it's actually addressed in an AMCTO report on council remunerations in 2017, where councils often compare themselves with each other, but because of the political nature of the job, nobody wants to give themselves a raise, so we're, in essence, artificially keeping it lower. But that's the way the political life works, and that's, that was the study on 444 municipalities in Ontario. So, okay,
We
so.
definitely deserve a raise.
Thank you. So let's vote on the amendment. So all those in favor of the amendment? All those against the amendment? That amendment is defeated. So now, if somebody wants to make another amendment, then it's time to give a number to the Conseil.
I'm going to recommend that we put the mayor's salary, again, regardless of who's sitting in the chair. At this point in time, we put it to 67, P67 to equal what the councilors were, or councilors are, plus cost of living, obviously adjustments, that same as council gets. Effective as of January 2020.
Okay,
That's my recommendation.
That's a recommendation, and just to be clear, the P67 would bring it up to the amount?
47,579, it looks like.
Okay. And we all have the report of what members of Prescott-Russell are getting paid, so just so they're aware of where that puts Russell Township in regards to comparables to all the other municipalities. Because right now, Castleman is gone up to 52, Rockland is closer to 53, Nation is over 50, and then you'll have, there's all the numbers on the screen right there.
All right, give me 10 seconds to relook at this, if you don't mind,
No, that's fine.
before I finish my amendment.
Councillor Associate?
But I kind of also agreed with what Councillor Chernowski said on that, like, we don't want to base our decision on another municipality, because maybe they're not doing a good job, and they're not having a salary that's appropriate to that size of township as well. You know, because we are, like you said, growing, and this, I think definitely already the mayor is doing a full-time job, and so we want to make sure that it fits.
Did you want to finish?
Yeah,
Councillor Lyon?
I will stick with what my recommendation was, which is, I guess it's, what was it, option two, but effective January 2020, if I'm looking at that correctly. Should the DEC help me out here, please?
In the report, you're looking at this point in the first paragraph, and in the third paragraph of the recommendation, which sets the number to be P67 number.
Well, further, if you go right down in the report, it's there, it's fully listed.
And I know, but I'm just saying where to put the number. You put the number here, and you put the pay period effective when, so we can just replace it retroactive to something else if that's what you wish to do.
Another question.
And Councillor Chernowski?
Why did we set aside money last year for this? Just in case.
Monsieur Leduc?
Well, I think that concern was raised last year. We had said to council that, this might be something of interest to you to review. And council had agreed then to put away the money for the review and wait for the survey to be conducted for council to take a decision on the money set aside in the budget. So the money is there in 19 to cover.
It was raised during the 2019 budget session that we had, and at that point in time, I think the mayor had brought up the discussion about full-time versus part-time, if I'm not mistaken.
I'd asked the question what the expectations of council are.
And I think at that point, council had put the 15,000 away just in case, because it would have been retroactive to, or starting at whenever, so. And then this year, I think we just kept it in reserve in case we needed it.
Mr. Lizer?
There was the 15 last year, and there's the 15 again this year to cover whatever decision council makes, so you have $30,000 to play with.
What is standard practice when when the study is done, what is the standard practice when it comes to the corporation in regards to retroactively, or sets a date, council usually sets a date, or is council usually gone retroactively in the past?
The policy doesn't say when it's retroactive to.
Right.
It's always the council's
It's
decision to
discretion.
decide when you go back. But again, from staff perspective, when you expect a pay raise, when negotiating or when you're expecting a decision from council, and the money's been set aside in the budget, well, you're hoping that it goes back retroactive for the first good period of the budget year. So that's what you always hope for. But
I'll see you later.
But in that scenario, are we talking budget 2019 or are we talking budget 2020? Because we're in the budget 2020 discussion time.
Yeah.
We already passed it.
the 50,000 was set aside last year in 2019, and again, there's another 15,000 this
Right.
year in 2020. So there's money there to cover whatever decision council makes for both years, 19 and 20.
Unless you decide to go past the 15, but I don't think that's happening. I gotta lighten the mood, guys, come on.
It's a tough one, I'm telling you. I mean, I've sat through, I've been through 3 of these. This is the 3rd time now we've gone through this in terms of council remuneration. The first one didn't go so well. I can tell you that back in 2008.
No,
So.
well, like I said, I mean, it is a tough subject, and that's why ASMTO, the Association of Municipal Clerks and Treasurers, looked at the subject, was to try and find, that's why as well in the report we're looking at the option of do we go with a per resident fee. That way you can justify saying, I think it was close to, council's whole remuneration. You could say to a resident, well, council, it's costing you personally $8 a year to cover council's remuneration. We play within that amount, then, it's a little bit easier to talk to residents so that they understand what is council really costing them. So, I mean, you could look at this 1,000 different ways and come up with 1,000 different solutions. But at the end of the day, it's whatever council picks as a number, that's what gets picked as a number.
So can I ask this question?
Yep.
Let's just say, for argument's sake, that we were gonna make a decision for the next council.
Okay.
And because that decision may or may not affect you,
Yep.
what would you think?
If you want to
Considering the position, not considering that,
Yeah.
that it's you.
No, not considering that's me. So if you're looking at put it into effect for the next council, you're essentially saying that you think and I'm not talking, it's a difficult one, but you're essentially saying that the next person is worthy of that amount, but the current position
Yeah,
is not.
no, I'm not
not
saying-
person,
no,
not
I'm
person,
talking
but
about a number.
position. Yeah, but you're saying essentially, we feel that in 4 years, or the next term, that position is worth that much, but we don't feel it's worth that much now.
No, I think that's what he's asking. I might be wrong. We just
Like, you're
try to put
talking about
yourself
putting
on
it into effect for the next term.
No,
No,
Oh, then
I'm trying to get your opinion on it. That is what I'm trying to
Oh,
do.
you want my opinion on this?
Yeah.
Ok, ça soit le 9 ou le 19.
Okay.
No, not just overall, like, I know it's difficult because it's the mayor's salary.
Yeah.
But when we were discussing the council salaries, we all gave input on it.
Yeah.
So what is your input on the number, on the retroactive versus
Well, I think.
whatever, like?
I'll start with the retroactive. So, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Leduc, we might have to look at this, but previous term of council, when that decision was made for council members, I believe it was retroactive back to the first of the year. I'm not sure if we have that.
I think we did it in February.
we can verify the report, but I believe we did that.
Yeah, so but whether it was February, you know, it was put aside in the budget, so therefore, you know, like I said earlier, if this study had been done in February, the position would have been collecting the new salary all the year round. That's in the budget, it's not affecting the budget. That's on the 2019 versus 2020. That's my thought on that. In regards to the salary itself, you know, anything less than 67%, I think you're essentially saying, well, council members are worth 67%, but the mayor's not worth 67% on that issue. In regards, should it be higher? Do I think the position is worth being more than that? I think that because I'm doing it full-time. But I understand the possibility that it might be somebody who does it part-time. But that being said, you know, if you go to 46, 47, or whatever the case is, minimum wage is roughly 35,000 right now.
Yeah.
So you're saying the CEO of the corporation, the mayor, the position that represents all the township is worth just a little bit more than minimum wage. So from that perspective, yes, I definitely think that the position deserves more. And I said that when we had that discussion 4 years ago, I said to council, can we look at the position of mayor for the next term of council? And council at that time decided they didn't want to entertain that discussion at all, and we moved on, and that's fine. I mean, I took the job at the current salary that it is, and I get that. But I think that if, you know, the position is one that I think is of importance, it represents the municipality, whether it's me or somebody else, this person is the voice and face of the municipality, and there has to be, you know, something of value to that. You know, we get just saying that, well, you're going to get paid what a minimum worker gets paid. Well, I think the job description is a little bit different in that sense. So you want my opinion? I think it should be retro to 2019. Money was put into the budget. It doesn't affect taxation whatsoever. In regards to the salary, I think the minimum is 67, but I think that, you know, and really between 67%, and you know, it's a big percentage, between 67% and 90, 100%, it seems like a big number, but realistically, we're talking like 5-6 grand. So $3 grand. So, you know, it's up to council. I mean, I'm going to go with whatever council decides. But, Councilor Lede?
Thank you for your input on that. I asked for it. Appreciate the information. I want to correct one little thing though, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
The $15,000 that was put in there doesn't affect the 2020 budget or the 2021 budget. It did affect the 2019 budget because it was put in there then. Right, so when you say it doesn't affect taxation, I just wanted to make sure that we
there's
knew
no
that
there's no increase.
There's no increase today
because
on
of the
it.
decision was made by council already.
Right, so it was part of an increase from last year.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that, you know, we didn't say.
Monsieur Leduc?
To the information you were requesting, so bylaw 216-13 was passed in February, providing retroactive pay to the first pay period of 216 for councillors. And a budget, a 216 budget was passed by council in November of 215. So you were still, like you are now, into the year and voting something that was passed at budget. Also, I'd like to say to council that there's been no reaction to the previous councillor's raise. There's been no reaction to last year's budget passing with $15,000 provision for the mayor adjustment. There's been no reaction from the public from $15,000 mayor salary adjustment in the 2020 budget. It's been made public, it's out there. I have not received a call. I don't know if you're receiving calls or any media coverage of this. So I'm just saying to council, when the last time you debated this, you debated it the same amount of time, and you're still concerned about giving yourselves the raise. It went through. I think people perceived it as being fair and reasonable, and it was part of the budget, had no impact to them regarding the actual budget that were passed. I think the community realizes what you guys are doing for the money you're giving. So, to me, it's quite simple solution, but I think that you're worth the dollar we're paying you, and the public has been aware of this taking place for the last 2 years, the discussion to be taking place the last 2 years. So that's my 10 cents on the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Guzzo. So, we have Councilor Laurent, you wanted to make the amendment?
We have the choice whether to go with the P or having just a number that, take the two numbers that we have.
Can I have 5 minutes? You take 5 minute break?
5 minute break? Everybody's good for a 5 minute break? Okay, 5 minute break.
I like that.
Coming back. All right. Welcome back, everyone. We're having the discussion, Conseil Laurent.
I'm gonna change my amendments.
We actually didn't put it on the table.
I know.
Okay.
That's why I'm saying I'm changing it, otherwise I'd have to ask for it to be deferred or something. I'm gonna recommend to council that we go with a salary of $50,000 flat, and it be retroactive to 2019 January 1st pay period, and then obviously adjusted from there. And I will move that motion.
Second it.
Seconded by Conseil Associé. Do we need to have discussion on this suggestion? Okay. There's an amendment on the table, moved and seconded. All those in favor of the amendment? All those opposed? Amendment is carried. Any other amendments to come forward? Any other discussion? Mr. Leduc?
Just a question to be clear,
Yes.
because we're part of the report here. So then you would read the $50,000 retroactive to the first pay period of 2019, that's all good.
Mhm.
And the cost of living adjustment that would normally apply in the year 2020, is that what you're intending, or back to the 2019 also?
2019 and 2020.
So 2 and 2. Okay.
That's the way I saw it, because we set the salary at 50,000 for, as of January, as the first pay period of January, whatever, then that would have included, that would be plus the increase that was added in 2020.
It's as if we made that decision going into January 1st, 2019. So we have a mover and a seconder. All those in favor? Oh, yeah, we did that. Okay. And Monsieur Leduc, c'est clair?
Could I just ask?
Total 219 and 220 over 60.
Councilor Kanoski?
Can we just find out after, can we just find out where that puts us in the P whatever? Just down the road, just for information's sake? Thank you.
Okay. Monsieur Leduc? you have the
Well, the P90 report was showing at
Okay.
50,682, that was P90. And the 50 plus 2 plus 2, or whatever decision council makes on the COLA for 2020, is 51,000. 51,000, so you're close to P90.
Okay. Councilor Kanoski?
So I just want to recognize that we are giving that amount based on the type of work that our current mayor is doing. So down the road, I would like, well, I guess we have the opportunity to review that. I want to go on record to know that if there's someone that's not putting in that we could review that.
Yeah,
'Cause
council.
that's higher than ours, and, you know, like, we're at 67.
Yeah, council at any point in time has the right to review its new remuneration and make changes as it sees fit. Okay. That was a separate, so on est rendu au bylaw, So statut, on a fait.
That was the amendment.
Yeah, okay, that was the amendment. Okay, all those in favor as amended? All those opposed? Carried. Item 16, bylaws, motion that council approves bylaws 2019-179 to 2019-188 inclusively for first, second, and third reading as listed on the agenda. Need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Conseil Brisson, seconded by Conseil associé, all those in favor?
Mr. Mayor?
Hold on.
Oh.
We have to remove item number 188. Right?
Yes.
Remove it completely?
We have to vote on the second.
To choose one of the
To
options.
choose one of the options, okay. Remove that one, so moved by Conseiller to remove that one, seconded by Conseiller Brisson, and then Mayor Salvo.
Mayor Salvo.
So all those in favor of removing that item from the consent? Removed.
That's why I was delaying, I was trying to read and make sure that they all made sense.
Yep. So, okay, so we will go with, all those except the 2019-188, all those in favor? All those opposed, carried. So now we'll vote on the 2019-188. So we just have to specify which one. So which one would it be the recommendation, Mr.
It's
Dizzer?
neither one of those two.
It's modified.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of, well, we just state
No.
that it's 50,000 plus cost of living, 2019.
Well, it's option one, we set the amount, and that's how it's,
What does the bylaw say right now?
Fait que si c'est régi d'après, ça serait le plus de 50 négatif. Option two.
non, tu dis le montant. Option un, c'est le montant.
Ouais, c'est vrai,
Parce que vraiment, c'est la deuxième partie du rapport qui ont pris.
So option one was just that mayor's annual remuneration of bylaw 2019-88 be substituted to read as follows. The mayor's annual remuneration shall be $50,000, retroactive to the first pay period of 2019.
There you go.
So I think option one is the one that takes care of it, Monsieur Leduc.
Ça, c'est option two. Je sais pas. Je pensais qu'il y avait pris ça.
We'll just confirm.
It's still in place.
Monsieur Leduc has some suggested wording changes,
Yep.
c'est ça? Madame Kamani-Laflamme?
So it would be option one, the amount would be 50,000, and there would be a paragraph, and that the COLA adjustment of 2019 be also applied.
Okay, so we need a mover and a seconder for that amendment. Moved by Conseiller Lorrain, seconded by Councillor Brisson. All those in favor of the amendment? Okay. All those in favor as amended? Carried. Thank you very much. Okay. Item 17, new business reports, we have none. Item 18, other business presented by council members, we have none. Yeah, Conseiller Lorrain?
I would just like to make the announcement and recognize the fact that the Russell Fire Department will be celebrating their 40th anniversary of the Santa Express on December 24th. What an amazing accomplishment to be doing that for the residents of this community, and to keep it up for 40 years. 2 trucks now going, like I think it's back 4 or 5 years. That's already stated up there. So I just commend the department for sticking with it that long and for continuing that tradition. I think it's absolutely amazing.
Congratulations, Chief. I'm just curious, did you play Tiny Tim back then?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, Mr. Lauren, just watched us 40 years, it makes us get look a little older. Oh, I played all parts.
All parts? It's a wonderful tradition to have in the municipality, so thank you for adding the Christmas cheer every year.
And I'm always screaming on my porch.
We'll have to go on your porch on the 24th, Councilor Associate. All right, move on. Item 19, public consultations hearings. We have none. Item 20, closed session. Motion to move into closed session at the hour of 7:53 p.m. to address matters pertaining to Section 239 of the Municipal Act. Under 1, reduction of paid hours affecting income and level of service. Under Section 2B, personal matters about an identifiable individual, including municipal or local board employees. Item 2, discussion on the appointment of an employee under the same clause, Section 2B. Item 3, employees' remuneration recommendations in regards to the market study results under Section 2D, labor relations for employee negotiations, and in Section 4, the closed minutes of the regular council meeting dated December 2nd, 2019. Mover and seconder to go into closed session, Councilor Saucier, second by Conseil Lorrain. All those in favor? Those opposed? Carried. And since this is the last webcast for the year, just want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, be safe, and above all, great health in the coming new year. Thanks, everybody.